بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد. We started off with Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu anh, whose khilafah was very short, 2 years and around 3 months. Then we looked at Umar bin Khattab radiyallahu anh, who was 10 years and 6 months, a long period, a very long period. And Uthman radiyallahu anhu, an even longer period of 12 years. And then Ali radiyallahu anh, under 5 years, 4 years and 9 months to be precise. And then Hassan radiyallahu anh, the people of Kufa, they pledged allegiance to him. However, after 5-6 months, no more than 7 months, he decided that no further bloodshed, no further conflict, and he himself, he goes to Muawiyah radiyallahu anh, and he hands him over the keys of Khilafah. He says that I give you the Khilafah, I abdicate in your favor. And if you think about it, this was a huge gesture from Hassan radiyallahu anh. If he wanted, he had the support. He was from Ahlul Bayt. He is the grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was a highly revered person. He could have clung onto the Khilafah in the sense that there would have been conflict for the next 20 years. But he never. Even though there were major disagreements within his own camp, including from his younger brother Hussein radiyallahu anhu. Anyway, what happens is that Muawiyah radiyallahu anhu, he remains Khalifa for a very long time, for 20 years. So he assumes Khilafah in 41 AH, and he remains Khalifa till 61 AH, a very long period, 20 years. And remember, before these 20 years, he was already a governor of Sham. He was already a governor of Sham, appointed by Umar radiyallahu anh. So in total, if you look at Muawiyah radiyallahu anh, he was in control of Sham and then even a larger region for 40 years. That's a very long time. Now Muawiyah radiyallahu anhu, he's a Sahabi. As-sahabatu kulluhum udul. We respect all the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum ajma'in. So you have to tread very carefully when you discuss these events leading up to another incident known as Karbala. So we had Jamal. We had Jamal in the time of Ali radiyallahu anh. In his time, just a year later, we had Siffin. We had Siffin. And even after Siffin, I did not mention it, there was another incident. It happened at a place called Naharwan. And Ali radiyallahu anhu himself went there to sort out the breakaway group from his own supporters, the Khawarij. So he did quell them militarily. However, in terms of their ideology, they still lived on for a considerable period of time. So Muawiyah radiyallahu anhu, when he is now towards the end of his Khilafah, and he knows I will be departing from this world soon, maybe he felt that it will be better for the Ummah if there is no further conflict. The conflicts obviously which he saw and which he was also, a opposing party. So he thought to himself, let me appoint a successor. Let me appoint a successor. Like Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu anhu, he appointed Umar radiyallahu anhu as a successor. Umar radiyallahu anhu, he did not appoint a successor. What did he do? He appointed 6 people, shura, that after my demise, within 3 days, you need to appoint from amongst yourselves a successor, a leader. And obviously they chose Uthman radiyallahu anh. They chose Uthman radiyallahu anh. So he nominates his son Yazid. He nominates his son Yazid, who around that time would have been very young, 35, 36 years old. He was born in the Khilafah of Uthman radiyallahu anh around 25, 26 AH. So he's quite young. So he appoints him. Now if you look at history, and you look at the books of history, there are very conflicting reports of Yazid bin Muawiyah. Extremely conflicting reports. What do I mean by that? So there are some reports which basically describe him as God-fearing, pious, and you've got to remember that he also took part in many campaigns and expeditions. I'll give you a good example. When Qustantunya, as it was known at that time, what we call today Istanbul, when it was conquered, he was part of that army. Yazid was in that army. Yazid was in that army, and you all would have been to Istanbul, where what's his name, Abu Ayyub Ansari radiyallahu anhu is buried. He passed away in that conquest, and he left a nasiha that bury me by the city walls. Obviously at that time there would have been a wall or something there to protect the city. Anyway, so there's conflicting reports about him. There's other reports which say that he did not see the hardships of the Sahaba and the trials and the tribulations which they went through. He grew up in a royal household. He grew up in a royal household, so he was carefree, enjoying merrymaking, etc. So there's conflicting reports about Yazid. So because of this, there are three groups. When it comes to Yazid, there are three camps. One camp is that they accept him. They wholly accept him, and they accept him as a legitimate Khalifa and a true successor of Muawiyah radiyallahu anhu. Then there is another group which is on the other extreme, who basically reject him. Forget rejecting him, they curse him. And they curse him for the events that took place in Karbala, which we will have a look at tomorrow inshallah. They basically, the words they use about Yazid are sometimes, we can't describe them. Then you have another third group in the middle. And the ulama-i Deoband, they have adopted this stance as well, that we basically, we adopt sukut when it comes to Yazid. Sukut means silence. We don't revere him, we don't reject him. Because I told you there's conflicting reports. And you can understand why there are conflicting reports. Historians, when they write history, they would take from different sources. And there will be those sources which will be pro-Yazid. And there will be some sources which are not going to be pro-Yazid. So you're going to have a mixture. And in between that, sometimes the truth lies. In between that. That's why I said we've got to tread very carefully. When we talk about Muawiyah radiyallahu anhu as well, he is Sahabi Rasul. His manaqib are mentioned in the Ahadith as well. And then when it comes to his son, okay, he was not a Sahabi. He is a Tabi'i. He was not a Sahabi. But the middle course is you adopt sukut. You adopt sukut. And the group that wholly rejects him, you can also understand their stance because of the events of Karbala, which were horrific. The events of Karbala, as you will see, and when we discuss it, they were horrific. Anyway, Muawiyah radiyallahu anhu passes away. He leaves the world. Yazid is now the Khalifa. In fact, Muawiyah radiyallahu anhu, in his lifetime, he would make people pledge allegiance to Yazid. And like I said, maybe his thinking was, I want to avoid further conflict in the ummah. Maybe that was his intention. So Yazid is now Khalifa. People pledge allegiance to him. They give bay'ah to him. Many people don't. Many people don't. And some of them, some of the seniors who don't give bay'ah to him are Abdullah bin Zubair radiyallahu anhu. If we get a chance, we will discuss him as well after 1 or 2 days, because he is also a major figure in these events. Another person is Hussein radiyallahu anhu, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's grandson, the one who was not happy with his older brother abdicating in favor of Muawiyah radiyallahu anhu. So they adopt a confrontational attitude with Yazid. On the other hand, you still had a lot of senior Sahaba who were still alive. Abdullah bin Umar radiyallahu anhuma, top of the list. And remember, I told you about Abdullah bin Umar radiyallahu anhuma. He kept himself away from all conflict and strife. He did not get involved in any of these Siffin or Jamal or anything. And like I told you, he was even offered Khilafah, that you be, when everyone said that the two arbitrators in Siffin, what did they say? That Muawiyah steps down as well and Ali steps down as well, radiyallahu anhum. Both step down. Who should step in their place? Step in? Ibn Umar. But Ibn Umar refused. This is not for me. I don't want khilafah. I don't want to be part of any sort of discord and disunity. So Ibn Umar and Ibn Abbas were still alive, senior Sahaba. They say, let's not have a confrontational attitude. We've seen it all. Let's not have a confrontational approach with Yazid, because we've seen Jamal, we've seen Siffin, we've seen the events that led up to the martyrdom of Uthman radiyallahu an and Ali radiyallahu an, and we saw the period under Hassan radiyallahu an, the 6-7 months. We've seen it all. We don't want any further disunity and conflict, and they don't have a confrontational approach with Yazid. Anyway, at the same time, you've got Kufa. Remember, Kufa was Hazrat Ali's capital. It was his stronghold. And people from Kufa, they write to Hussein radiyallahu anhu, who is in Makkah. When Yazid becomes Khalifa, Hussein radiyallahu anhu is in Makkah. So they write letters to him, letters of support, that come to Kufa. We will pledge allegiance to you. Now, Hussein radiyallahu anhu also knew about the people of Kufa, that they basically could flip any second. They could be saying yes 1 minute and then they would say no, just like they did to Ali radiyallahu anhu. So he sends his cousin. He sends his cousin Muslim bin Aqil bin Abi Talib. So Muslim, his name is Muslim, he is the son of Aqil, brother of Ali radiyallahu anhu. So Muslim and Hussein radiyallahu anhu are first cousins. So he sends him, on a fact-finding mission to Kufa, that go and see what's happening in Kufa. Are they really supportive of me? So Muslim bin Aqil goes there. Remember, this is the early days of Yazid's Khilafah. So people of Kufa naturally are not supportive of Yazid, because they had been supporting always Ali radiyallahu an, and then his son Hassan radiyallahu an. So when he goes there, they all bombard him with their messages and their promises that let Hussein radiyallahu anhu come here, we will stand behind him, and we can then confront Yazid, and we can get him to step down from the post of Khalifa. Anyway, so they give him these messages. Muslim radiyallahu anhu, he sends a message back to Makkah to Hussein radiyallahu anhu that it's looking very positive here. Why don't you come? Now in that interim, whilst Hussein radiyallahu anhu is now preparing to go to Kufa, what happens is, you got to understand, Yazid is strengthening his Khilafah. So he dismisses the governor of Kufa, who might have been pro-Hussein, and he appoints a new governor, Ubaidullah bin Ziyad. Ubaidullah bin Ziyad. He appoints him. Ubaidullah bin Ziyad, as soon as he reaches Kufa, the first thing he does is, he basically gives an order for the execution of Muslim bin Aqil, i.e. the first cousin of Hussein radiyallahu an, the nephew of Ali radiyallahu an, the one who was sent on a fact-finding mission, and the one who sent back a report saying everything is okay here. Or Hussein, you need to come to Kufa, the people will stand behind you. Also, what happens when Muslim bin Aqil is basically executed, the people of Kufa, they say, oh, this is looking now very dangerous. So they stop supporting Hussein radiyallahu an. They withdraw their support. They retreat into the background. Now Hussein radiyallahu anhu doesn't know all this. Where is Kufa? Where is Makkah? There was no WhatsApp then. Okay? There was no social media where there's live news coming every second. He doesn't know what's happening. He has already set off with a small group of 100 people. Nothing. And many of them are his family members, as we will look at tomorrow, inshallah. He has already set off for Kufa. What happens is, Ubaidullah bin Ziyad, he sends an army of 4,000 well-armed soldiers to intercept Hussein radiyallahu anhu's little group before they reach Kufa. Because he was scared that if they reach Kufa, some people might just be reignited in their support for Hussein radiyallahu anhu, and we will have a rebellion here. So Ubaidullah bin Ziyad sends this army. It's like what we say in English. What do we say? Cracking a nut with a what? Come on guys, have you not been to school? Sledgehammer. Have you not heard of that saying? that some tiny issue, uske liye bada hathora istemal karna. Okay, you got a little walnut and you use a massive sledgehammer. So you got 4,000 well-armed soldiers gone to intercept a group. It's not even an army. There were even women and children in those 100 individuals to intercept these 100. Anyway, what happens is they are intercepted at a place called Karbala. When you go home today, Google Karbala. Karbala today is a thriving city in Iraq. It's around, I think, about 60 miles or something from Baghdad. At that time, Karbala was like a Maidan, open desert land, nothing there, basically. So this group of Hussein radiyallahu an, it is intercepted at Karbala, and they are no longer allowed to proceed. And then there is a bit of a, you can't even call it a face-off or a standoff. There was nothing to stand against. This was not a formal army. Yeah, they might have had light weapons while they are traveling, as was the norm in those days. They hadn't set out as an army. They weren't equipped as an army. They never had the numbers. They never had the numbers. For every one of them, there was 40 on the other side. So there is a face-off. And on the first day, Ubaidullah bin Ziyad's army, they don't take any action. Because some of them are a bit wary that, look, this is Hussein. This is grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We don't want to basically have blood on our hands over his death and over his killing, basically. So some of them are hesitant. They hold back a little bit. That night, Hussein radiyallahu anhu tells his family members and his group that you need to turn to Allah. You need to turn to Allah. And Hussein radiyallahu anhu, he sees Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a dream. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells him that you will soon be joining me. Meaning Hussein radiyallahu anhu knew that the next day they're not going to see the evening. They're not going to see the evening. Inshallah, we'll continue with this tomorrow. So this event of Karbala in Shia, what do you call it, history and Shia theology, it holds a very important rank. It's a very important incident. And remember, the Karbala massacre happened, by coincidence on what date? 10th Muharram. 10th Muharram. That's why when 10th Muharram comes, in Iran, also in parts of Iraq, and also in Pakistan as well. There is a sizable community of Shias in Pakistan as well. You will see them engaging and indulging in certain practices where they express their distress and their mourning and their grief for the events of Karbala, which we will look at inshallah if we get time tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik nashhadu an la ilaha illa